Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
Welcome to Drinkin' Bros Sports. D'Anthony, agents are necessary in the sports and entertainment world. We just happen to have one of the best to do it today on the show, Mr. Darren Prince. Darren, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Are you great? Like, is that an agent thing, or are you really great?
I'm really, really great. Honestly. I mean, I'd say 28 or 29 days out of the month, I'm pretty good. I'm great.
Who's the client list that makes you feel so great?
Magic Johnson. We start with him at the top. Hulk Hogan, Chevy Chase, Charlie Sheen, Carmen Electra, Jerry West. Caught up with Dennis Rodman a couple of days ago. He's turning 60 next Thursday. You know, he could be a handful depending on the time of year, but we still love him to death. Denise Richards, Oscar De La Hoya. You know, we've got a ton of iconic names that most importantly are great people.
Yeah, I mean that is quite a roster. Can I start off with one of my faves, Chevy Chase?
Chevy Chase. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Just as funny off camera, and on any given day, you're hanging out with Clark Griswold or Irwin Fletcher. It doesn't matter. You know, he just can't help himself.
No, we tried to hire him for a movie we did called Range 15, and his quote was so crazy. But I wanted to work with him because he's one of my all-time favorite comedians. That I was like, we'll pay that, and they were like, well, it's kind of on Chevy because he's got enough money that he doesn't really need it. And I was like,
exactly. I mean, I think most of our clients are in that position, thankfully for them. So, but I tell my staff and my agents that when deals get turned down, that they've earned that luxury, and when you get them done, it makes it all that much more worth it.
It does, but it's so much money. Is there any of them that you look back at and been like, man, couldn't you just done that for one day for that type of commission?
It's always magic. Always comes down to Irvin. I mean, he's just, he's got $1 billion brand, a massive, conglomerate that he's built, and but he makes it worth it because when those one or two big ones get done, man, it's I get, now that I live right down the street from his office, I'm able to give him a big hug and see him in person, that fist pound and that incredible energy with that $1 billion smile. It makes you realize that it's all worth it because, we don't just have the opportunity to make a lot of money together. We've had the amazing blessing of being family together on this journey the past 26 years. And, he was him and Cookie came to my first wedding. Probably not going to do a wedding again because that didn't work out, but it was a great wedding. They were at my 50th birthday party last year. Their son EJ came right here at Beauty in Essex, and it's just great to have those experiences. And Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, same thing.
Yeah.
We joke around. He's a rich beach bum, and he's got that bigger than life personality and brand, and he's earned that privilege. And we have to understand it. If I think something's a good fit, my guys know, my girls know, Carmen, all of them, that if I think something's a good fit, I explain why. And sometimes we make it happen. They've got enough trust and faith in me. That's something is well worth considering. Because at the end of the day, you're always trying to be a part of projects that aren't just always about the money, but it could just be great for your brand, for your legacy. Could be something very timely and pressing in the world, and that always opens up their eyes to look at things differently.
I'm glad you started with those two in particular. Let's take Magic Johnson to start with. When a guy has literally $1 billion and is one of the most successful businessmen in not only Los Angeles, but probably all of California. Because I think a lot of people don't know, Magic Johnson owns like 30 TGI Fridays and 40 movie theaters, and it's in the Dodgers, and I mean, part of the Lakers. It's not just, oh hey, he's Magic Johnson and he's famous from signing things. Like his business operation is it's got to be into the billions of dollars. I would imagine you're getting hit up nonstop just for an introduction, like a meeting, almost like a Shark Tank type pitch with a guy like that.
It happens all the time. I've gotten so accustomed and good at it before, scrubbing things out before I even bring it to him or Christina Francis, the CEO. I mean, they know that, there's so many opportunities that just come in and they deal with it every day in his office. And now just at the point I have to do my own due diligence, regardless of what the offer is, just to make sure there's a mission that's tied into what his brand represents.
Yeah, because, even on this show with our guests, we'll have a big guest on the show and they'll say, hey, can you give us Matthew McConaughey's number? We've got this charity, we've got this, great idea, whatever. And you have to say no, obviously. But with you, I would have to imagine you're just getting flooded with calls like that all day long.
Well, emails, phone calls, Instagram DMs, Facebook messages, me and all my guys and girls that, do deals here. It's just, it's crazy. And you just have to kind of let them down gently and say, no, thank you for the opportunity. Unfortunately, it's just not going to work. Or, maybe, suggest somebody else that could work within that budget or that project could work for it. But like I said, I have no complaints. It is what it is. And I'd rather have, I think Hulk's coming up on 67. I'm going to see him this weekend in Clearwater Beach. Magic turned 60. He'll be 61 in August. It's a blessing. It really is.
Yeah, and with Hulk Hogan now on the other side of that spectrum, going through the controversy and everything that he went through, and then that infamous trial with Gawker and the $600 million. Do you actually get something like that when you win a court case like that?
I don't know exactly what the final situation of the verdict was in it, but he was successful before that anyway. He was always a very smart businessman, very, very, very aware of his brand. He's the only wrestler in the history of the WWF and WWE to own his own intellectual property and trademarks, from Hollywood Hogan, Hulkamania, Hulk Hogan, the yellow and red colors, the black and white. He's always, really hands-on to this day. Even if there is an opportunity, he's on the fence, he'll make himself available to jump on a phone call with a corporate business partner, which I always love about him, because he's so engaging and he's so personable that he just wants to make sure if he gets in business with somebody, he wants to feel their vibe and feel their energy. It's not just always about the money and the guarantee and how many years in the personal services. He just he's big on people's energy and making sure he's getting in bed with the right business partners.
Yeah, because with that, I did not know he owned the rights to all the Hulkamania stuff and the trademarks. That's really hard to get, especially out of the WWE. Exactly.
So, like I said, he was always super business savvy. I've had so many outlets over the years asking about the settlement, which I don't know anything about. If there was any or what it was, I don't comment on that stuff. But I could just tell you he's a very, very astute businessman and really on top of the proper partners with his brands and, monetizing things and making sure that anything that's out there, he's got a great attorney, Joseph Cesani, that always makes sure anything that's unlicensed and whatnot gets removed and comes down to make sure that, his fans are getting the real Hulkamania authenticated merch, whatever that might be.
Yeah, because it is separate. You do have a legal team that is separate from your agency, and rarely do those two intertwine unless you're actually doing a deal together. And then typically the agent's got to call the lawyer 50 times to make sure that they're actually doing the work.
Yeah, I've worked with Ric Flair for years. Him and his wife Wendy are great, but he doesn't have those marks. He's got an incredible ability to be Ric Flair and so many blessings business wise. But it is really unique that Terry saw this opportunity. Terry, aka Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan. And it's amazing. It really is, because then nobody had the wherewithal to think about that years ago. When they became available, he took advantage of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know the Rolling Stones did as well, and they were able to trademark all that stuff and own the rights to it, which has made them endless cash forever. What do you tell new clients coming in as far as their brand is concerned? Like, do you start with, hey, you really need to start thinking about your brand from day one? Or is it something of work as hard as you can, and then once you get to a certain point, then start to think about your branding, because we don't want it to interfere with either the content you're making or being the best athlete you can be?
I think, like, for example, Oscar De La Hoya, when I met with him at my business partner, Nicky C., back in October. We just had a game plan. We sat down with him and his assistant and his CEO at Golden Boy and just explained to him where, what his vision is and, what opportunities we could bring alongside of that vision to just, bring him back out front and center instead of this business savvy boxing promoter that was also, 10, 11, 12-time world champion, gold medal winner. What does your brand represent? And what are you passionate about? And then we can kind of just find opportunities, within that. It's that simple. Because again, Oscar's worth a fortune. Doesn't need to, doesn't need to just take deals for the sake of the money. It's got to be something that fits into where his vision is and what he represents.
Yeah, that's another one where I don't think people understand how much money De La Hoya has truly made, because Golden Boy Promotions put on all of those fights for years and years and years. And since you brought him up, he said he is fighting June 3rd. Can you confirm that? And if so, who is the opponent? Do you know?
I don't know. Roy Jones Jr. is a client. He just did it with Mike. I mean, these guys, there's no talking them out of them what their love and their real passion is. Believe me, if it was up to Hulk, he would have wrestled at WrestleMania a few weeks ago. It's just in their blood. They just can't help it. And I think it gets to a point. I've had this talk with Hulk and a lot of them that, I think you've heard the expression athletes die twice, once when they retire and then once. It's hard for somebody on my side to understand that, I think, for most people, but, Hulk missing being at the Toronto Skydome with 80,000 people wrestling The Rock and slamming Andre in front of 93,000 people. He's like, I'm still treated like the champ on the Street Brother, but man, you miss that void, you miss that rush, the connection with the fans. And I just think that's why all these boxers, these great heavyweight, middleweight, champions are just trying to give another run at it. It's like I said, it's in their DNA. They know nothing else, and it's hard to just totally walk away from it.
But it's fun. Like, I enjoy these fights that are going on. You mentioned one of your clients is Roy Jones Jr., who fought Tyson. I watched that fight. I actually enjoyed that fight. There's something
they put on. Yeah, they put on a good show. They really did, the two of them.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. It was a lot more impressive than I thought.
That was a pretty good show, but these guys that are fighting YouTubers, it's not impressive. And it is clearly all about the money, right?
Yes.
There's no question it's about the money, which is fine, by the way. It's fine.
Exactly.
Money's money. Who gives a shit? I wonder, after looking down your client list, it seems like you have become something of a home, like an island of misfit toys. You've got you got a cast of characters on your client list here. Pete Rose, Daryl Strawberry, Jose Canseco, Dennis Rodman, Latrell Sprewell, Hulk, Charlie Sheen, people like that. Might be somebody from a branding perspective that some folks wouldn't want to work with because of their behavior in the past. Now, do you think working with some of those guys makes it more likely that more of them would want to work with you because you don't care about that shit, or how does that work?
No, a lot of the other guys that we have are non-exclusive, but they're like a perfect example. When something comes in for Rodman, you need to find a backup that might work within a certain budget. And then you can look at the other guys that, they don't just grab every deal, but they're a lot easier to deal with. So I think a lot, and they're good people. I don't think anybody in my office would be representing or working with any of them if they weren't good people. At the end of the day, we all make mistakes. We all make stories. I'm sure you guys know mine. I'm recovering opiate addict, drug. I was a hardcore opiate addict for 24 years of my life, highly functioning. It's the greatest accomplishment of my life. I'm 13 years sober, and I do everything I can to help touch and change people's lives. So, I don't judge people for making a mistake or two. I think it's not where you're from in life, it's where you're at.
Yeah, because, with that client list that Dan was talking about, I would think some of these people are seeking them out for the controversy elements of what they could bring to whatever project it is. We'll start with Pete Rose, because he's been on the show 4 or 5 times. Pete's a great guy. He made a mistake, if you want to call it a mistake. I don't think it was, to be honest with you. Like, when you bet on yourself, I don't think there should be any repercussions on that. Because you just want your own team to win, so I don't really see the downside in that. I would want my own coach betting on the Falcons if he was that great, but apparently he wasn't, and he was a piece of shit and he got fired. So it is what it is. But Pete is one of the sharpest, brightest baseball minds. I think we had him on 3 or 4 days ago, And with a guy like that, you know, people want to ask the same story about the Hall of Fame and everything else, and you feel obligated to. What's your personal stance on Pete Rose?
I think he's a great guy. You know, worked with him on and off for probably 5 years. Last time we had him at a Dodge dealership in New Jersey, and I think it was the second or third time they hired him. That's how much they loved him at that same location. So, you know, when you see that from a business standpoint, and you know, it kind of reflects who they are as a person and what they mean professionally on the marketing front. And you know, I just wish they would let him into the Hall of Fame already, because you know, his statistics will never be seen again in any lifetime. Why not? I mean, he played the game unlike anybody else in that time, and it's the reason they call him Charlie Hustle. You know? Yeah.
Do you get the best tickets in the world for all these events, by the way?
A lot of times I do. Yeah, it's you know, I think the enjoyment almost is telling a girl that I've been dating the other day, because she hasn't been has been to a Laker game, and she saw like some pictures of me online sitting courtside at Lakers games. And I was like, you know, be honest with you, when you've done it so much, it's a cool experience. When Smoking Joe Frazier was alive, I sat at every major championship fight ringside with them. You know, even Jeannie Buss and Linda Rambis are near and dear to me. They've given me courtside tickets. It's more, I think, when I get there, it's about who's around me, who I can network with, more than even enjoying the game. It's just in my blood. I can't help it. I'm looking all around and see if there's anybody that I've done business with, trying to do business with, and you know, take advantage of it. Because when you're down that low and you've got that ability, I don't want to sit there and be zoned into a game for 60 minutes. Not that I don't watch it, but I think you got to take advantage of those experiences a little bit too, to help grow my agency.
Yeah, because all the heavy hitters are down there, and you know, if you're there and you have that opportunity, you might not get to talk to these people, because let's face it, you're trading calls all day, and then you end up rolling calls, and then boom, the next thing you know, it's 5:59. Every agent's getting ready to go out the door.
I took a girl that I was dating last year, and Jeannie and Linda really hooked me up. I actually at center court at the Lakers-Toronto game. It was in November of 2019. And when security escorted us there, not Maverick Carter, who was it? Rich Paul.
Oh, yeah, LeBron's agent.
Was sitting in the middle seat. I met him once with Magic. He vaguely remembered me, shook his hand, exchanged information. He was actually talking to... oh my God, who was one of the big producers? It might have been Bruckheimer that was sitting next to us, and got up, and it's just one of those things. He got up, they sit behind the basket, LeBron's team. And again, if I wasn't in that moment at that time, you know, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. I worked my butt off, you know, for 26 years, not just working for talent, but you know, if you're shy and you don't put yourself out there like that, I mean, how are you going to grow in any business? You know, think about it. You always have to put yourself in the best spot to network and take advantage of the people around you that normally, you know, you wouldn't get to meet. Because I'm pretty sure, I mean, a lot of people know me, but if I'm sitting second row behind the basket or something, it's a lot harder for me to get in front of people, to be like, oh, wow, that's Darren Prince. They don't know me that well. So, well, maybe you know, when I'm down in that situation, you know, every time I've been to sitting ringside at fights or, you know, World Series or, you know, I've been to the MTV VMA Awards several times. You know, I think that's key, just to, you know, take advantage of as much as you can, and know that you're not going to be around this environment, you know, every day for your, you know, the rest of your life. So do what you got to do then, and hopefully live the rest of your life with a real successful career, because you took an action when you were meant to.
Yeah. It's, especially those VMAs during those commercial breaks is when you make your moments there, but trying to get to people. When you see someone like a Rich Paul, who is a young guy who is, you know, the superstar agent at the moment, is it like an older athlete looking at the younger guys going, God damn it, man, I wish I was you and I could do this journey all over again? Have you enjoyed it that much?
No, I mean, I just, you know, it's kind of like just mad respect for those guys. I mean, Scooter Braun's a friend of mine too. And I love what he's done, what he's accomplished. It's beyond epic, you know, what he's built with his brand and conglomerate. And I just, you know, look at them. I'm not a person that, you know, is ever in resentment or jealous. I'm proud of them. I mean, these guys took platforms that I didn't have growing up in the industry and just took it to another level. And it's cool because the respect is so mutual too.
Yeah.
You know, they know what I've accomplished, what I've done, and they all have such mad respect for me and my talent that I represent, and you know, even more so for my recovery journey, because I'm so out there talking about you know, the hell of drug addiction to beauty of spiritual recovery. You know, I did Jay Shetty's podcast 2 months ago, and he had Will Smith on a few days before me, and just was in awe when we were done. He goes, you know, brother, your transparency is incredible. This is going to help so many people. So I think for me, as much as I'm respected, you know, in the aging game for all the iconic figures I've worked for, I think the fact that I've, you know, embraced my personal struggles to help other people has taken the respect even higher around these other power players in the industry now, because let's face it, a lot of people aren't open to talk about struggles like that in life.
Yeah, and by the way, I didn't mean, I just meant, do you wish you could go back, you know, and start it all over again? Like, did you love being an agent that much that you're like, man, I wish I could do this now? Because there is so many different opportunities for branding and digital, even like crypto shit that's going on with the trading cards and all that other stuff. Like, do you wish you were in this time or the time before? Because you know, starting up now, I look at all these wild opportunities of somebody like a Rich Paul, for example. You're able to sell these NFTs and do these, you know, these weird movie deals that really didn't exist back in the day. I mean, none of this did. The internet, social media didn't exist, you know, back when you got started. Do you look at it now and be like, holy shit, this is such a massive landscape that we can exploit? Like, man, I wish I could just go back in time a little bit and hit all this right now.
Yeah, we've laughed about it. I laughed about it with Rodman over the years. Can you imagine if he had social media in the mid-90s with everything he was doing, and you know how much bigger some of our guys would have been? I mean, Dennis would have just pushed the boundaries to no end, and you know, obviously Hulk in his heyday back then, and you know, a lot of these guys, it just would have been epic. But you know, it's interesting because a lot of the social media branding deals, digital commercials, digital partnerships, we're still getting them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think most of our talent was late to the game in social because they never understood it. When you're financially established, when you're not slowing down, but when you're like, I don't want to do everything I used to do, I'm getting older. They're still getting these opportunities. I literally had a call with Julian and Larry Bird's girls. I've been working with them for 27 years for a big NFT project last week, and you know, I've got one on the, you know, ready to go with Hulk, and you know, trying to find a perfect partner for Magic. And Carmen Electra just launched one on Friday with my boy David. He's got a big group out of Canada, and you know, so they still find us. Yeah. But yeah, I look at the dollar increments on it, and a lot of it is direct derivative of their social media following. So if they weren't so late to the game in social, or social didn't come so late after, you know, the twilight, you know, the prime years of their career, yeah, the money would have been much more staggering. But it's still nothing to complain about. There's still, you know, major opportunities for almost each and every one of them.
Yeah, not at all. And like it was one of those things where we had Brett Saberhagen on the show a few weeks ago. Brett Saberhagen is one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and he throws, you know, 7 innings like every single game. And I had asked him the same question. I was like, man, you're kind of like Clayton Kershaw. You're the only person who goes deep into a game. You never really gave up any runs or any hits. How much would your contract be worth now? And he was just like, man, it probably would have been like $300 million.
Yeah, you get a $15 to $20 million a year contract now for having a 4 ERA and winning 15 games.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah. They're just giving.
But it's interesting. You even got like Brett Saberhagen. You know, this whole NFT craze. I think there's an opening for everybody. My boy Ryan Fitterman, who reps Pete Rose. You know, I sent him something a couple weeks ago, and he's like, man, because it's crazy all these NFT offers. And I just, like I said, they still find a way to find the legends and the icons and the pop culture phenomenons. So we benefit one way or the other by it.
Yeah, Ryan Fitterman's obviously a good friend of the show. We've done many jobs with him. He's with Pete. He works with Pete Rose, Mike Tyson, all those other guys. Yep. We love Fitterman on the show and Fitterman Sports. That dude's the nicest guy on the planet.
Love him. We've been done business for years. We're like brothers. He always calls me, sends me a text that I'm his mentor. But you know, he's done so much of it on his own. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, great guy. Dan, you just took a call a couple weeks ago for these NFTs. Mm-hmm. The money is staggering. Do you think that's the future of this?
I don't know if I would say it's the future. It depends on how it all continues to develop. I'll say this: it's kind of the fruition of the creator economy, and the blockchain is going to continue to play a big part in that. Whether it's a decentralized internet or the ability to create your own content and then monetize it into the future, it is very similar to old school network television residuals. But in this case, not only do you own the IP, you also own it into perpetuity, and any transaction made on it, you get money from that. So it's something like we've never seen before, and what it's doing is removing money away from production companies and what I would call, particularly in the music industry, more so the television predators that have existed for the last ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the old record producers that tricked particularly Southern and Motown black stars into signing contracts where they got none of the money that they generated and stuff like that. Those are a thing of the past now.
Right.
So you can really control your own destiny. And I know I see all these older celebrities now, like a lot of whom you represent, figuring this out and instead of being bitter about it, getting involved, which is probably the correct response. Like if you're going to sit around and bitch and moan about stuff that's happening now, when you can take advantage of it, then that's kind of on you, to be honest. So it's good to see some of these people getting involved in this shit.
Yeah, and you take a guy like Pete, Magic, all those other guys.
Because Pete makes most of his money signing autographs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why the fuck would he not make an NFT of his image or an autograph or something special and sell it for $3 million?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we had the Gronkowskis on, and they were talking about going through that process with Rob. And, it's weird because we got to hear it on the show, the pitch. You got to see kind of what they were shooting behind the scenes, and then boom, it comes out, and then it sells for $1.2 million.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Dan and I used to have to open up baseball cards with gum in it and try to hope for
that's why I'm so fascinated by, because I had one of the biggest card companies in the 1980s that I eventually sold prints of cards, and I got back into cards last August as an investor, big time. And to me, I think it's a domino effect and a little bit of a collaboration of crypto meeting the sports card boom. And that's why the NFTs are exploding the way they are right now. Like, I'm very close. By the way, Fred Bolcom introduced me to Rocky at Artifacts, and there's nobody bigger in the game and the biggest in the world. He was doing NFTs 5 years ago before anybody even knew about it.
Really?
And,
it seems like people...
Gary Vee just did his drop. Yeah, Gary Vee did his drop with him, and so many others. Mark Cuban's an investor. I mean, I think The Rock's one of his partners with the production company, and I've learned so much in such a short period of time. And he gets a kick out of what used to happen in the card market, what's happening with the grading now, and it's just a perfect storm.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's interesting how the whole thing develops.
As long as the celebrities and the athletes don't get greedy and want to mass produce, those specific celebrity entities and brands will sustain their value.
Well,
they really will.
It's interesting you say that about greed, because people who were careful about how many things they signed back in the day when the secondary market for signatures was so far out of their reach were considered greedy at the time. No, that's a smart business. You want to create a demand for your product. Anybody would do that. That's market goddamn economics. So now...
I mean, Magic signs a ton of autographs. We have an exclusive with Press Pass Collectibles in Arizona for the past 3 years. I can't even tell you how many he signs, but they're very careful with how they distribute the products they come up with. And I started with Magic booking autograph signings. That's how our relationship started in 1994. And he always told me, he goes, "This is just a byproduct of what's to come." He goes, because the bottom line is it's the relationships that we get, and you will start finding bigger marketing opportunities because of this. And he nailed it. I mean, everything he said was right.
Yeah, and it's the other part about I honestly think from the consumer side, I personally feel like just like getting an autograph in person, people are more likely to go to a baseball game and seek out an autograph, or go to a signing event where the person's actually there. I feel like they're more inclined to purchase something like this when they know that the artist, whomever they happen to be or whatever genre they're from, whether it's an athlete or an entertainer, is getting the money. Like, people don't like the idea of big conglomerates ripping off talented people, because it's been such a part of American culture over the last, 80 years now. And it's, well, shit, more than 80, I guess, probably 90, about 90 years. I feel a lot better about that. I feel a lot better that the secondary and tertiary markets for these things are now going to be still feeding revenue back to the person that created the revenue in the first place. That's a good model for everybody. That's like buying locally. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It multiplies the reach of the revenue at the lowest possible level, which is always a good thing in market economics. So I like this stuff.
Exactly.
I'm excited to see where else it's going to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see some pay-per-view events that are NFT where you can only watch them on a specific platform that you have to download, and then the NFT the platform is built on the blockchain and shit like that. I'm really excited to see where all this goes.
It's going to get there from all the technology and everything I've learned from Rocky. It's definitely going to get there. It's going to be, and then you can bid on that video clip, whatever it might be. That's a one of one of a certain NFT moment,
like
on whether it's a pay-per-view or whatever it might be. And now you have something that's an original digital piece of art that's encrypted and can never be reproduced again.
Yeah, if you're one of the Paul brothers, for example, and you happen to, knock out Floyd Mayweather, which is probably not going to happen, but you happen to do it, and you own, and Triller owns the license to that content, you NFT that, maybe sell 500 copies and start the bidding process and see what happens, right?
Well, look, I think with the way fans are looking at the Paul brothers, I love them. I think they're great, but I think more people are going to want to see Floyd lay him out, because
either way,
for a lot more than the other way around.
Yeah,
right?
if you're Logan Paul and you get knocked out by Floyd Mayweather, I would sell that NFT and retire, because you will never need another dime in the rest of your fucking life.
And it's an honor at that point. You got lit up by one of the best ever do it. And
well,
give it a shot. You have the balls to go in.
Yeah.
You have the balls to go. You have the balls to go in there with them and make it happen.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I enjoy seeing. Look, I think the Paul brothers are ridiculous human beings, but they're not stupid. You know what I mean?
And we keep talking about them.
I love them from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
Same.
they get it. They're laughing all the way to the bank. I don't know them personally. My boy Bear is my social media partner at our Newport Beach Bear and Honey Group, who's very close with both of them. Told me they're great guys. I never had the opportunity to meet them. But yeah, I mean, they come up obviously like pompous asshole jerk-offs. But
who cares?
Reality is I love what they're doing on the marketing front. It's genius. Right. They're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, you love a good. It's like you always say, America loves a good heel, and they're playing. I mean, they're playing the best heels in America right now.
The most consistently popular sports.
And Hollywood Hogan was just as good as the yellow and red Hulkamania.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
so
it's
heels do work.
The most consistently effective marketing athlete of all time is the professional wrestler by far. Not even close. Nobody's had. There have been no dips. Like there have been there have been valleys on like the WCW side during the split when they were competing for market share and stuff like that. But that competition actually made a better product on the WWE side, so it worked out in the end. There haven't been, like with hockey during the strikes, huge fall off. 94 in baseball, again recently in baseball after the steroid, or more recently and during the steroid era, there's a big drop off in fan base. The NFL and NBA have seen it because of whatever reasons. I don't know if it's the quarantine or if it's because of the political activism or whatever it is. Wrestling, combat sports in general, fighting and wrestling, you don't see any dip. I mean, Canelo's still making $40 million a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's nobody gives a shit about boxing, apparently, but Canelo's still making $40 million a fight. How? Because that's not true that nobody gives a shit about boxing. People want to see people get knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, and they want to see superstars, and Canelo's still a superstar. I think you're down to kind of 4 or 5 in boxing.
Well, Canelo fights a guy that's undefeated and says, "You haven't fought anybody. You're a piece of shit."
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Whoa!" And then he comes out and fucking whoops his ass. I mean, that dude. Honestly, we were at that fight. Saunders won 1 round, I think, maybe. I think he won 1 out of the 7 rounds up until that point, and he clearly wasn't winning in the 8th.
Yeah.
So, some people gave him 2 rounds. I didn't think so. I was keeping points, but maybe I missed something. I don't know. But either way, he's an undefeated guy that absolutely dominated.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But there's only a handful. Whereas the WWE is always creating starts. Always Roman Reigns, all those guys. It's just The Rock, John Cena. Like it feels like there's always one guy.
It seems like traditional sports are wary to wade into some of the controversial matchups. I don't know if you remember the '80s in wrestling. They had like the Iron Sheik.
That was my era.
Like that,
yeah.
Right. Like there's an
Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah. Like why would we? It's obviously entertainment. We don't hate fucking Iranian people. There's fucking Iranian people in our government right now.
And he knows that.
Yeah.
Everybody on board knows it. Like one of your guys is Hacksaw. He's married to my cousin. So I've been seeing this dude since I was a child.
You got Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Yeah.
Look at that. We got a little Hacksaw on the desk.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him in a while. I know at one point he wasn't doing well, but he seems like he's doing okay now. Hulk just saw him. He told me 2 weeks ago. He was at the beach shop, so it was nice to hear. Sweetheart of a guy. Great guy.
He's like the nicest guy. He gave me a pair of signed shorts that not the ones that he wore in the ring, but some of the type that he wore in the ring, and I believe it was a size 63, which is basically 2 of me. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Was it really a 63?
I was a child at the time, and I didn't know how big it was. Or maybe it was a 53. I think it was a 53.
Okay.
I didn't realize how big that was until now I'm an adult. I wear like a 34, 33, 34. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is a very, very large man. But you're right. He is like the fucking sweetest dude ever. And so are all those guys, for the most part.
Wrestlers and boxers are the nicest people in the world.
They don't hate
Irish
each other.
Mickey Ward is my guy. I was with Mickey Ward about a month. I mean, these guys have the biggest hearts in the world.
But Mickey's a tough motherfucker too, right? So it's a weird thing to think about how. And The Rock's the same way. He's one of the nicest guys, hardest working, nicest guys in all Hollywood. People gave him. I
sat next to him at the Tyson Lewis fight. Me smoking Joe Frazier and my boy Nicky C. And was just as sweet back then, and I think it was right after he wrestled Hulk for WrestleMania, and just the most cordial, nicest, humble.
But he's also really good at pulling other people into his business deals. So we have Chuck Liddell on our network, as you know, and Adam Ray, his co-host on the show, Icebreakers, is he plays McMahon on the new show.
He plays Vince McMahon.
So. The Rock just texts him out of nowhere all the time. Hey, how you doing, buddy? And stuff like that. Like, Adam's a good dude, very talented dude, pretty accomplished, but he's not anywhere near The Rock's level, obviously.
And the messages are unbelievably positive. Like his positivity is amazing. That guy.
Yeah, and he's always like he's always pulling people.
I'll tell you a story. When I signed Magic as my first client for Prince Marketing Group in 1994, he told me that it's not how successful he becomes, it's how successful he makes me and everybody else around me. That it's a domino effect. He understood that. He understood that long before anybody else did. And, fast forward, here we are 26, 27 years later, look at what he's built.
Yeah.
I've always tried to do the same thing. And The Rock is just a gem because it's obviously what you do. You just bring people with you that are no part of that team. And what LeBron has done with Rich and Maverick is beyond incredible because, that was something that even goes against the grain. Magic always used to say, don't hire your friends. But these guys are doing at an epic level that we'll probably never see again. And they're geniuses. They're just an incredibly talented group.
The idea's been around for a long time. I mean, the labor movement in the late 19th century coined the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. And even Augustus, when he was emperor of Rome, knew that you had to strengthen the lowest possible class to build a foundation of a society on, right? So that's just basic marketing. I don't understand why people don't understand that. Being selfish, especially if you're the head of a brand, it will put you in a death spiral so fast.
It's a nice place to be. Holly Saunders, who I'm near and dear with, and one of our newest clients from last year, she's crushing right now with her content, golf projects, and different things. And she literally has her own team of 7 or 8 videographers, photographers, makeup, hair, like the clothing stylist, and she's brought them all into this world that they never would have had, and she's absolutely destroying it. She's doing her NFT shoot this week. It's something really hot and sexy, and I can't be around other people that it's always about me and I. It's got to be about we and us. And,
I can't do it.
People understand if people understand that we and us is key. It's a team. I've got my girls here, Matilda and Joya, that are like my lifeline for personal stuff, business stuff. Like, I've never been one. They'll tell you when I close a deal, I'm great. This is amazing. No, I make sure that everybody knows. I've got 5 agents back in New Jersey where I'm originally from. And everybody knows this is a team effort, whether I took a deal from beginning to the end, somehow, some way. You guys have freed up time. You freed up my ability. You made my life easier so I can go out there and be Darren Prince and get the bigger opportunities. I'm nobody special.
Well, I mean, it's all of human civilization up until this point, up until the last 100 years maybe, has been about developing a strong central core, whatever it happens to be, whether it's your family, your tribe, a city, country, whatever it is. It's anything. Somehow we've gotten into a me culture. And I think it was probably happened sometime around when television was created, right? And people started to see themselves on it. And now you can put yourself on it with this device that you have in your fucking pocket all the time. Now, this is a very useful tool, right? But like every tool, like a nuclear weapon is a useful tool. Nuclear energy, I would say, is a useful tool, but there are devastating consequences if it's used improperly. I would say we really got to start paying attention to that. And it's less about focusing on yourself, like you said. I mean, we and us. One of the things I say, and I've got this on the wall in my house. Actually, it's one of the first things I see every morning when I wake up, and it says, "This is not about," or "It's not about you." That's my ethos in life, basically. It's not about you. If you sit around thinking about yourself all the time, then you're just gonna fucking blow your brains out at some point. You know what I mean? It's just
guys, when I wrote my book, Aiming High, there was a lot of 2.5 years ago. If there was crickets even for a person or two that worked for me, my mother. Well, go out there. I'm so proud of you. But I said, because it's not about me. I said it's about me delivering a message to help change and save lives, because if I could touch one person that lived the hell that I lived, but I didn't want to live anymore the last years of my life. And Magic said it to me some 3 weeks ago, and he's just beaming with this smile because he just knows what I do on a personal level. And he goes, you realize that you continuously get favored tenfold because of what you're doing to help people. And I know you're not doing it for that, but that's how spirituality, that's how God, that's how our higher power works. And people just don't get that. It's not about what you can attain, it's what you can do for others. Take and give back personally, professionally, give people the opportunity of favoring them when they normally wouldn't have had it, and at any other period in their life. And that's how you win.
Well, that's how
you win.
That's what being an agent has to be all about. Like if you're an agent and you're in the me game, you're gonna fucking lose big time.
Yes, and you've got to be willing 100%. To switch and pivot into these new mediums and be prepared for anything. I mean, speaking of which, we got some breaking news here. Hollywood has canceled the Golden Globes for next year.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. By the way, Hollywood has a contract, or CBS has a contract to spend $60 million a year just on the licensing rights for the Golden Globes.
Yeah, NBC, yes, correct.
NBC, rather, sorry. But it may be that they still have to pay that and they just don't want it on. Now, my understanding is the reason they canceled is because they're not keeping up with these social reforms that everybody else is requied to. Like
correct. But it really seems like ratings, doesn't it?
Maybe they're just trying to avoid further embarrassment. I mean, what was it? 9.6 million for the Oscars?
9.6 for the Oscars. Golden Globes was, I don't know, hovering around 7 million. Yeah. Man, that is a crazy, crazy story. They said they're hopeful to get it on in 2023. We'll see. Look, after the last award show, I mean, after the Oscars, you and I were talking about it. Those numbers are not good enough to be on air anymore.
No.
What do you think is going to be the future of all of this stuff? Are you even going to have award shows anymore?
Honestly, I think a lot of it could just be streaming. I mean, it doesn't make sense. They're not even getting the advertising support. It's just there's so much now that's moved to streaming than television. My ex-fiance's got a TV. She's got tells me all the time it's big flat screen. She does Netflix, and I know a lot of people that don't even have basic cable or TV anymore. They just go up there and they'll watch stuff on YouTube the next day or whatever. It's not, I don't think of what it once was when I was growing up, and even 10 years ago. It's just different now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the streaming part is absolutely part of it. People want to see, look, that is a meritocracy, by the way. When one modality outplays another one, that is just a meritocracy, and the viewers will ultimately decide what they want to watch. That's certainly part of it. And I think to that point, people are tired of being browbeaten all the time by politics. I think people should be as engaged as they're comfortable with in politics all the time, because politics is how we decide how the fucking world around us is going to work. However, people need to tune out as well. Just like there's a principle in education where someone can only actively study for about 30 minutes at a time, then you need to take a 15-minute break. It's called recall,
exactly.
Right? So you got to take a 15-minute break and then come back and you can start to study again, and it helps your neural channels, just like fascial tissue in your muscles, have to have time to rebuild. And if they don't, they never can. We are being inundated 24 hours a day, whether it's award shows, Hollywood, fucking sports, whatever it is, with politics all the time. And people don't have time to take a breath. And I feel like it is starting to show itself in the bottom line now. And I don't know what the plan coming out of this is, but it seems very self-destructive on the part of Hollywood and professional sports to continue this shit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because is that something you discuss with your clients? Like, are we in an era now where politically you have to sit down and say, all right, here's what you can and can't say. You're your own person and you're going to do what you want. But if you do say this or do choose a side, it's going to nuke out 50% of any audience in the United States. The reason I asked this was I went through the same thing in 2015 with an agent. I had a big agent, and he said, look, man, you're hanging out with these guys who are known for like guns and everything else, and I think that's going to be bad for you. And it was just like, I'm actually going to do what I want, and I'm not going to take that advice. Do you do the same?
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to political, I think most of our talent knows to just stay away from it. You can't win.
Can't win, right? Yeah.
There's no way. You're going to, like you said, you're going to gain half and lose half the others, or vice versa. And, you know, who needs that? So now if there's certain stances or things that are going on where I think other celebrities have come out, then you can be a little bit more flexible with, you know, basically watching the climate and the temperature and what's happened with that individual. If it's not something too over the deep end, then, you know, kind of leave it up to them what they want to do.
Right. And I think
but you do have that conversation, right?
But don't be the first. But don't ever be the first.
Well, unless you're a mega, like,
you know, then you're finished.
Yeah, like Charles Barkley, for example, talking about how ridiculous some of these movements are. He can say whatever the fuck you want. You don't need to coach Charles and Shaq is the same way. You don't need to coach Charles or Shaq. They have carte blanche to say pretty much whatever they want because they've lived those lives for a very long time, and they're pretty well respected. I mean, I said this before, but I never thought in my childhood that in my by the time I turned 40, Charles Barkley was going to be a thoughtful social commentator. That was something that I did not predict, but it's become that. But I think I don't know if you need to be careful. Like Chris Pratt is a good example. He's had to be very careful about what he said over the last 2 or 3 years now, even some of the stuff he does, just because people want, for whatever reason. He is the nicest, most likable, thoughtful, and generous dude. He's Rock 2.0, basically. And one of the he's working with a buddy of ours on that new series. So our buddy Jack Carr wrote the books that he's working on with that series now. Nicest guy ever, but every chance someone gets, and I don't know why, I honestly can't figure it out, they try to take his ass down, whether it's for hunting or going to church, which I don't give a fuck about church. I don't care. I don't believe in any of that shit. But he's a nice guy. He doesn't fucking go out hating on people, so leave him the fuck alone. But a guy like, even a mega star like that, still has to be careful about what he says. Yeah,
politics and religion are still a go-to either way.
It's very bizarre to me.
It is, yeah.
You know, I worked with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier for 16 years, and their heads would be, I can't even imagine. I think about it all the time, where they would be right now with everything going on. I mean, it's just crazy.
It's nuts, right?
You know, it's crazy.
With Muhammad Ali, we had his wife on the show a couple months ago. Just to change gears here, you know, he's obviously passed away. Do you hit up the family and say, hey, we can make some more money off of, you know, NFTs and the legacy and all that stuff for you? And is that becoming more and more of a thing of celebrities' life rates? I
represent the Joe Frazier. Well, the Evel Knievel estate we represent. Evel was a client for many years, so we deal with his son Kelly. Smoke and Joe Frazier's estate, we deal with the kids. The Ollies we don't, because ABG owns them, but I know Tyler, I know all those guys super, super well. So if there's projects and collaborations with Ollie Frazier, you know, Lonnie's amazing too. I go way, way back with her. I had the blessing of, you know, escorting her and Muhammad to Joe's funeral, which I know he really wanted to come, and he was in pretty bad shape and beat up over it. And, you know, it's just we've had a very, you know, good relationship over the years. Harlan Warner is one of my dear friends, brought me into the Ali inner circle when I was probably 25 and pushed me to go get Joe as a client, because he's like, someday we're going to get these two kings together. And it happened in 2002 in Ali's suite. And then I sat courtside with him at the NBA All-Star game, and the next day center court, which was remarkable.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just watched a doc on the photographer who actually took those photos of the two of them together. And, you know, he was like, look, I wanted to see them together one last time and have an image of these two guys before, you know, whatever happens. Because let's face it, you can get those guys in a room once or twice, and that's about it.
That's it. But yeah, they really did. They hugged it out, and there were happy tears and emotions, and it was just beautiful to see. I was so young back then. I was 32, so I don't think I fully understood the magnitude. I knew it, but I just Yeah, what an incredible blessing to be there in that moment and then sit center court with them the next day at the NBA All-Star Game and see everybody from Alicia Keys, Jordan, Kobe, and Allen Iverson. Everybody was just like, wow, they just couldn't believe this was happening. And they were cut from a different cloth, man. They were the two greatest ever do it. There'll never be an Ollie Frazier again, ever.
No.
I can't imagine what
not.
it would be. I mean, there have been attempts to replicate that. No one was around when Lennox Lewis was fighting that was competitive enough with him.
No, I was at that Tyson Lennox Lewis fight you were at as well. I was there, and I thought that was close with him.
But Lennox was such a freak. He's like the LeBron James of boxing, man. He was so big and so fast,
physically gifted. Yeah,
nobody was gonna fuck with that guy. And now, I mean, look, I think the closest we've seen lately is probably Triple G and Canelo, right? But those fights have been like the boxing world is a little bit cancerous. They've got all these different belts going on, all these competing interests, and the refs have been problematic in some of these fights as well, particularly the second one, I believe. I don't know the matchup right now that's really that I'm really enjoying is the Dodgers and the Padres, to be honest. I think that's the best rivalry in sports right now, and I want to see more of it. I can't wait for the fucking playoffs. I can't wait for September for them to play meaningful games against each other, and then the playoffs. That's going to be right. I think this is one of those times where two teams, the Dodgers are a little bit older with Kershaw Turner and some of those guys, but it's two relatively young teams. They both have a bunch of young stars that are playing against each other in a very competitive division. And this is going to be a fun it's already been a fun baseball season, but that's going to be a fun fucking playoffs series. If they're in the NLCS against each other, that's going to be one of the best NLCS of all time, I think.
Maybe.
It's going to be like Red Sox Yankees back in the day.
Could be up there.
I hate the rule changes myself, so I'm a little turned off by baseball right now. But
well, there's no 7-inning doubleheaders in the playoffs, my man, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but you're still putting a runner on second in extra innings, right?
No,
they get rid of that?
Not in the playoffs. None of that stuff happens in the playoffs.
Okay, so that's just for the regular season? Yeah. Thank God, dude. Thank God.
It's just to make shit go faster, but again, I disagree with that as a premise, although I think putting somebody on first is probably a little more apropos, but whatever. Anyways, that's really getting to me, but in the fight world, it seems like
you've Tyson Fury, you have Wilder, you have Canelo. But to me, Anthony Joshua, and then it ends for me after that. Like Pacquiao and those guys are too old.
Even if you look in UFC within the divisions, and Giorgio, who's editing right now, would be able to speak more to this than I can. But even within the UFC, within each weight class, there's not a whole lot of competition for the belt within each weight class. I would say Chandler fighting for the belt this weekend is probably one of the closest. But who's going to take out John Jones at light heavy? Nobody. He's going to move up. Right? Yeah. Who's going to take out Usman? Who's going to take out? We'll see. Right. We'll see what happens. But I don't see. We need faces and heels.
Yes,
we need people that half the viewers like and half the viewers don't like. Now, we were watching Canelo and Saunders. Every time Saunders' face popped up on the screen, 35,000 Mexicans inside that arena booed him like I've never. It was. We talked about it this week.
Hey, did you see the final attendance? It was 73,000.
Yeah. So we've been to 2 Conor McGregor fights, and usually there's about 5,000 to 10,000 people from Ireland that are there, raising hell, having a good time, supporting their guy. Even if he loses, they still support him afterwards. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen 35,000 people from one country specifically rooting for their countrymen in a fight like that, and it was electric. I mean, it was wild as shit.
Well, let's face it, we're right near the border, so it was pretty quick.
Texas does have a large, and they could accomplish this in Southern California as well, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not to this degree. Texas loves its culture here, so I'm sure they made a good decision to it in Dallas.
Yeah, and look, I hope there's another Ali. I want to see that big personality, that huge excitement. That's what I get down for, and that's why I love like Conor McGregor and those guys. I love the big personalities. In your opinion, who's the biggest of all time? Looking back at it,
well, it's obviously Ali, right?
Would it be Ali or Jordan?
You're muted.
You're muted right now. Having a little bit of technical difficulties. The guest is muted.
Is that any better?
Yeah, there you go. Boom, nailed it.
Phone just dropped. So, I'd say Ali. And nothing against Jordan. He's a great guy. I've met him. I've said his Hall of Fame induction. Dennis, introduced him several times. I've met him through the years, and his team's incredible. SD, and David Falk and what they've done and what he's done. But I just think Ali didn't stop inside the ring. and that's why. What Ali did outside the ring was greater than anything he ever actually did inside of it. And he just, he's a champion for the world, and he stood up for so many social issues and just didn't care. I think the fact that he, was stripped of his license, I think that whole story is just so incredible, and lost it for 3.5, 4 years during the prime of his career. And, everything he represented, I started working with him in 94 and just seeing the struggles with the Parkinson's, but always wanted to get out there, meet the fans, be around them, didn't want people feeling bad for him. He stood for just so much, and, we'll never see another one like him. He really is the greatest. There's, forget what he did inside the ring. Outside the ring is, like I said, I think he far surpassed any accomplishments outside the ring. And, for that reason, it's Ali to me. I mean,
I think
it's just hands down. I don't think it's close.
The only other person that would probably come close would be Kobe, I guess. Somebody that had the attitude off court as well.
I'd say Jordan, just because he did so much marketing.
Yeah, but he didn't market.
Sure, yeah, Jordan's the only one that would be a close second. I mean,
I don't think Jordan did a whole lot of.
I think Pele probably could have been up there. Pele was such a revered name in the sports world.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd probably say, in that order, in my opinion, Ali, Jordan, maybe Pele.
But a lot of Jordan's, a lot of what might have made him a heel to people, I think if he had been mic'd up during all of his shit talking back in the 80s and 90s, people who are not Bulls fans would have disliked him quite a bit. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of thing that makes you dislike somebody. Kobe talked a lot of shit. I mean, he and Shaq had a very public feud. Yeah. Right? Jordan, the only real public media war that I remember from Jordan was him and Byron Mitchell, or Byron, what's his name?
Byron Mitchell, Is
it Mitchell?
Yeah, I think so.
The guy from the Jazz?
Yeah. Oh, Russell.
Byron Russell, yeah. Yeah, he called him Brian Russell, and then he was like, oh, you mean Michelle Jordan? Said, like, dude, everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. Relax.
Right.
But that's, like, for the most part, until afterwards, and the story started coming out about Kwame Brown and how he just ran this dude into the ground, and then how he had actually done that. Like the story about him and the Steve Kerr situation came out later. Mm-hmm. Turns out Jordan was kind of a dick, but it was a very effective form of communication for him to win 6 titles and 6 MVPs. I didn't see a lot of that out there. Kobe was a little bit more, I mean, he's younger, right?
Yeah.
The older generation didn't tolerate a lot of the stuff in the press.
But as far as a global superstar, I'm with you. I go Ali. Yeah. I go Jordan. Pele is weird for me because I'm not crazy into soccer. However, I recognize that the rest of the world is, except for me apparently.
Well, if you're talking about global, it's hard to compare anybody to Cristiano Ronaldo or Ali or Jordan. Right, those 3.
Yeah, Ronaldo is definitely. He might be top 5. I looked at his Instagram the other day. It was something like 200 million or 300 million followers. I'm like, that's only the entire country.
That's only a function of soccer being more ubiquitous globally.
Yeah.
But I think today, if Jordan was playing today, after all the work they've done over the NBA's done overseas, it might be his brand might have been even bigger today than it was back then.
If he can shoot the 3.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I mean,
but imagine Ali fighting. But imagine Ali having social media back in the 60s.
Oh, just constantly talking shit. He's got like a full. He's got a full videographer editing team.
These young kids don't know. When the girl's been hanging out with, she's young. She's 24. I'm like, you realize all this hip hop stuff you love is because Muhammad Ali created hip hop.
Yeah.
Any OG from the 80s will tell you that. Any one of them. It all came from Ali. He was so influential in so many other ways than just boxing.
Yeah.
Ali talked a lot of shit about Frazier specifically for a while.
Well, everybody he fought.
Isn't there some scene where, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but Frazier was a little on the down and out and Ali helped him out or some shit like that? Or was it the reverse?
Other way around.
Other way around.
So Frazier helped out Ali.
Yeah, because I was part of that documentary, One Nation Divisible, with HBO. Yeah, Ali couldn't pay his hotel bill. Butch Lewis got a call from one of Ali's guys, and Joe went to the hotel, went to the front desk, paid the bill, had Ali get in his limo, put a few grand in cash in Ali's pocket, and they're joking around about the big fight happening, helping him to get the license, and Ali just got out right in the middle of New York City to get dropped off and just starts taunting Joe, and that's when it started. I'm going to get you, Joe Frazier. I'm going to whip you, Joe Frazier. You ain't nothing but a gorilla. Calling, and Joe didn't understand it because Joe wasn't a marketing machine. Joe was there just to fight and be a truth machine and blue collar and just didn't understand. Like, they're in the limo. I remember because Butch was alive and I met him and I heard the story. I heard the story from, Eddie Futch when, long before he passed, when I got to meet him, Joe's trainer, and they said they just couldn't, they were scratching their heads. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, where is this coming from?
Did he ever figure it out? Because ultimately it probably made Joe a lot of money on the back end, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joe kind of realized he would always tell me once in a while he was a little bit, his mind was going a little bit the last couple of years, and every once in a while he'd repeat the same thing, just out of nowhere. Hey, Prince, I still don't understand, man, why the damn butterfly? I forgive him, but why did they have to keep doing all that stuff, man? We had every fight sold out across the world on closed circuit, on closed screen, and he goes, I just think you pushed a little bit too far, because when my kids have to get harassed and my kids can't go to school, that's where it becomes a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Man, you've been amazing. This is the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the week, which is someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today. Who would you like to give the Drinkin' Bro of the week to?
My late father, Martin Prince. Made me everything I am today and saw me at my worst, even though I had all the exterior business success, but was blessed to have a sober son for 8.5 years before he passed.
That's awesome. I'm glad he got to see it.
Yeah, what did he do?
My dad was in the direct mail coupon advertising business, similar to Valpak. And then, like, the last 5-6 years of his life, the old business I used to be in, the autograph signing, he loved it. He kind of did that, like, in his retirement. He had the best time of it, hanging around different athletes and celebrities. And he just loved the merchandise and eBay and auctions around the country. So, he had a really good time with it. He wanted to get involved in the agency side with me, and I love him to death. But it just got to a point where he would tell me that, it's amazing to see the student now becomes the teacher.
Well, if you work in marketing,
Dad, I love you. I love you for helping me with the advice and whatnot, but let's keep it there, because Dad was an old school Jewish guy that liked to talk a lot, and I think his style never would have worked in the agency game.
That's awesome. Look, I don't know if you have social media or want to promote it or anything else, but where can people find you?
So my Instagram is @agent_DP. Okay. Agent, just like it sounds, AGENT, DP. And anybody wants aiming high books, we send out free hardcover books all the time for people that are struggling out there with this pandemic, with stress, depression, substance abuse. And if you want to check out the business side of things, it's www.princemarketinggroup.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, this was a really fascinating conversation. Thank you for your time today. We know you're an extremely busy man. For D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is Drinkin' Bros Sports. Good night, everyone.
Thank you guys for having me.
See you, buddy.